my son, but he is working with a group called Neighborhood Hope, formerly the Abandoned Project in Charlotte. And he started that when he was in college as a volunteer. He's taken on. Talk to us about that a little bit, where they've gone in the past few years and what they're up to these days. It's a work that the church supports, the community individually support. And I think it's going to be an amazing story for him to tell for years to come. I would like to start this morning, if it's okay, with a word of prayer. Father God, we are a blessed family. We are blessed because you allow us to be called your children. We are blessed because you allow us to be your children. We are blessed because on need, you put your arms around. I want to sit, ask your company. On Becky, on Jeff, including your mother. There's nothing in the world like your mother. They're irreplaceable. I ask us as a church to surround them with love, with care, comfort. I ask you to give them the help. Just know that their mother is with you. I pray that this work that TJ is doing continues to grow, that we see the benefits of making relationships. You've given us a family here. We come from all different places. So we call each other brothers. We love each other. We thank you. Bless this time of learning.
Hello? Okay. Cool. We are hot mic, so anything I say from here on out, you can hold against me. Good morning, everybody. It's so good to be with you. Is this too much? No, we good? Everybody good with this volume? Okay. I don't use microphones often. I work with kids, so the louder I get, the louder they get. So I usually use my natural voice, usually lose that voice. So this is all new to me. But it's great to be with you today. As my father mentioned, I am his son and my mother's son. My name is TJ Keeter. I grew up in this church. I was born at Mission Hospital. And I spent my whole life up until 18 years until I graduated high school at this church. I was part of Sunday school, part of the youth group, mission trips, everything. So this is my home church. When people ask where home church is, this is it. Now, I live in Charlotte currently, but when people ask where the home congregation is, it's Biltmore. So thank you for having me today. It's been far too long since I've been up here. With last year, everything going on, continuing into this year, it's been difficult to get here, but I'm excited to be here today and to share with you what's been going on with Neighborhood Hope, with me, and really kind of show you what we have going forward. So some of you may be wondering, who is Neighborhood Hope? We were formerly the Abandoned Project. When I started volunteering when I was in college in 2015, it was the Abandoned Project, and the idea behind the Abandoned Project, that name, was that these communities in our city in Charlotte had been abandoned by government entities, by people who had promised things, that our children had been abandoned by somebody in their life. And for years, that's what we ran with. That was our purpose. That was our mission, to be there, to not abandon these communities. And then we started to think about the name. We started to question, is this uplifting? Is this what we want to portray about our communities? And we asked a lady that lives in our community. Her name is actually Miss Mimi. She's like the community mom for one of our neighborhoods. And we asked her, we said, Miss Mimi, what do you think about the name, The Abandoned Project? And she said, honestly, if I pulled up next to you, next to the van that said The Abandoned Project on it, and I saw a bunch of black kids in it, I would think that's just another program. That's nothing special. So we really thought about the name, and Neighborhood Hope just kept sticking with us because we want to be in the neighborhoods, right? We are all about building relationships, and to build relationships, we have to be where the people are. So we want to be in the neighborhood. We want to bring hope. So we have worked on our definition of hope and what it means to us, and so that's where Neighborhood Hope came from. It's an uplifting and gratifying way to talk about our communities. They are not abandoned; they're forgotten. They have hope, and we are there to help build that hope. We're there to provide resources to help grow opportunities, to help them live the lives that they want to live. So that's the story behind the name. I know somewhere some people were still calling it the Abandoned Project. It happens all the time. Don't worry about it. But we are officially Neighborhood Hope now, and we love the name. We love what it stands for, and our community loves it as well. So, a brief history of Neighborhood Hope. It was started in 2010 with a block party by a local church. So basically, they just invited people out and had a big cookout and got to know people and got to meet people. And from that, it became a Wednesday night program for youth. So my boss and our associate director were volunteering with the program at that time. They had 150 kids in a gym with about 5 people. So you can imagine what that was like. But over the years, it began to grow and expand, and word of mouth was passed around from our kids about this gym where you can come and play basketball, you get a meal, you get to hang out, you get to meet new people, and so it continued to grow. And the church decided that they wanted to divert their resources in other directions, but would still provide the space for the program. So my boss took it over. Josh Meadows, he took that program over, and it officially became the Abandoned Project in 2012. So I joined. I came on as a volunteer in 2015. I was in school at UNC Charlotte and connected with Josh, and he's actually from the Asheville area. He went to Reynolds High School. He likes to tell people that we went to high school together, but it was 10 years apart. He's much older than I am. So I remember watching him play football when I was 10. That was the deal. So we connected, and I simply started showing up. He was like, "Look, when you come, when you start volunteering, like, don't try and change the world. Just show up." And that's what I did. I showed up right after Christmas break. I showed up to a Saturday basketball program. I had just recovered from a fractured ankle, so I was gimping around the gym trying to meet everybody and play basketball. And I got some weird looks. I was a white college student walking into a room full of young black men, and I very obviously stood out. But I immediately felt at home. I immediately felt like this is where I want to be. So I continued to show up, not with any agenda, not trying to change anybody's life, but just showing up. And slowly but surely, I got to meet more people, got to know the names of people, and got to build those relationships and earn trust. And through earning that trust in that time, I actually took over the basketball program as a volunteer. I was running it, was planning out lessons, was making sure that kids were picked up, and everybody had a ride. So our whole model is built on relationships and investing time. They say the greatest thing that you can invest is your time, and we believe that. It takes time to earn trust. A lot of our community members come from broken homes, so somebody has broken their trust at some point in time. So for us to come in and offer these things, it's great at first, but there's a lack of trust because people have come in and done great things for them once or twice, but then they leave and they never show back up. So that trust is broken. So we spend time in these communities, in these neighborhoods with our people to build trust. And when we build trust, then we are able to properly serve. So all of our programs are built around what what we have learned from what the community has told us that they need, that they want, that they desire for their kids, or that kids desire for themselves. So our whole model, our mission is to model the love of Jesus to overlook communities who deserve to be free from negative cycles. So our communities have this cycle of poverty that surrounds them. They did a study in 2015. Harvard did a study in the city of Charlotte. If you're born into poverty, there's a 4% chance that you will ever get out. So over nine out of 10 people that are born into poverty will stay in poverty their whole life, and that's just not acceptable to us. You know, it's a sad statistic to tell our kids, "Hey, you're 5 years old, but you're probably going to be poor for the rest of your life." Like no child should have to hear that. That stifles dreams. That stifles goals. It makes you not want to try. It makes you wonder why you're even trying to be a better version of yourself. So we want to reverse those cycles. We want to break those cycles, and we want to offer opportunities to our kids to get out of where they are, to dream of a better life for themselves, to dream of a better life for their family. And so that's what we're all about. And I want to read a couple of verses that we kind of model everything out of. It's Isaiah 58. This is going to be starting in verse 6. Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Is it not to share your food with the hungry, to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them, and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood. Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and he will say, Here am I. If you do away with the yoke of oppression, with the pointing finger and malicious talk, and if you spend yourselves in behalf of the hungry, and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise from the darkness, and your night will become like the noonday. The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in sun-scorched land, and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. So that's some verses that we live by, right? We want to loosen the yoke of oppression that is on our communities. We want to bear the burden that our families feel. We don't want anybody in our community to feel like they can't ask for help. We want to be there to provide the resources, whether it's something that we can do or that we can point somebody towards another organization or another outreach that is working in that area. So that's kind of a general synopsis of what Neighborhood Hope is, how we function, what we do. But this is a great time to be here because it's kind of a nice way to recap the year. So this year for us has been amazing. It's been a great year for Neighborhood Hope. Coming off of last year, it was very strange. I'm sure you all can attest to that. It's a strange time that we live in, where we're able to do things, we're not able to do things, we're able to see certain people but not others. And it was no different for us. So throughout 2020, we were essentially shut down. We were not able to have any programs. We weren't able to conduct our regular way of business. Our gatherings were limited. We weren't able to be in the neighborhoods like we regularly do. So it kind of forced us to slow down and really look at what is important. What do we need to focus on? What is the community crying out for right now? And it really came down to education for the students. They were all virtual last year, and it really took a toll on their education. And then also food insecurity. So our neighborhoods live in what's called a food desert, so they don't have ready access to fresh produce and quality food within, I think it's a 3-mile radius is what the term is. But so those were the two big needs that really popped up for us. So we started to think, what can we do? What do we do? How do we meet those needs? Because we're not an education-based program. At the time, there was nobody on staff who had any education training. we all have bachelor's degrees, but in no way were we prepared to provide educational training or tutoring or anything like that. And we asked, what can we do, and God provided. We got the idea of starting a tutoring program, originally on our own, just to provide a place where we could kind of wing it for our kids to help them with their homework, to help them with reading, and to just be there for them. And within a couple of days of deciding that that's what we wanted to do, we had somebody reach out to us who was going to be leaving her teaching position to spend more time with her family, but was interested in running the tutoring program. And this was probably 2 days later after we had decided that this is what we wanted to do. So we hired on Leah, who's our tutoring coordinator right now. She spent 10 years as a teacher, and she has run our tutoring program amazingly. We never imagined that we would provide educational resources for our kids, because that was something that we never dreamed of. But here we are today with a tutoring program that serves 25 kids right now, and we have 10 kids on the wait list that are waiting for a tutor to volunteer so that they can come. So COVID really showed us, what do we need to focus on? We're doing all these great things. We're busy every day. We've got programs every day, but what is really important? And the second thing was food insecurity. So we started a food pantry during COVID, and with the intention, the idea that we would get some donations that could meet small needs, and we ended up filling a whole room in our office with food for our communities, through donations from people from this church, through donations from people down in Charlotte. But we had people calling us all day long. I want to drop some food off. Can I come by and drop some food at the office? And we filled up a whole room in the office with resources for our community. That we were able to, anytime we got a call for food, we had what they needed. We didn't have to go buy anything. We had diapers, we had dry goods, we had water, anything that anybody needed was provided. So COVID was terrible in many ways, but it was amazing how God worked. I think a lot of us could attest to that. So coming into this year, we were excited, with everything starting to open back up. We were really excited to get back into the community and to kind of see how we can, where do we start at? What is important again? So we kind of looked at what we were doing and decided that we would, not be busy, but be intentional. And that really kind of shifted how we looked at everything. It's great to be, having a program every night, but if it's not intentional, what good does it do? It provides a space, yes. It may provide a kid, a couple pieces of pizza and a water bottle, but what are we really getting at? So we wanted to be more intentional with everything that we do. So rather than being in the neighborhood, every day, just hanging out and, making up programs out on the fly, we decided to get really intentional with it. So we added our tutoring program. We added a summer camp for our kids. So our kids are already 2 to 3 grade levels behind. So summertime is terrible for them because all they do is sit at home, play games, or they're outside, and there's no educational training at all. There's no summer reading that's required for them. Parents are working, so they can't take them to the library or take them to a summer camp or pick them up. So we decided that we would start a summer camp. Again, never have run a summer camp. Been to summer camp, been a camp counselor one time, but I have no clue how to run a summer camp. None of us did. So we asked again, God, how do we do this? And He provided. So we planned out a whole summer camp for our kids. It was a 5-week summer camp focused on education. So our kids were involved in a math program, reading program, and a STEM program. So they continued the skills that they were learning. They learned some new skills. You'll see some pictures of some of the STEM projects that they did. I was trying to get in there to build some of the stuff that they were doing. They did thermal s'mores, which was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was pizza boxes with tinfoil, s'more on it, and then they set it outside and it cooked. It's why didn't I learn this when I was in school? You know, I was very jealous of those STEM projects, but it was cool to see the kids in a different educational context because it wasn't sitting down and doing work. It was fun. It was allowing them to tap into their creativity. They got to build these projects and do all these fun like reading games and stuff like this. So they really got to build their education, but also were having fun at the same time. And it was great to see that them kind of have a love for learning during the summertime. Um, and we took 3 trips in that summer. I guess this summer. So we took them to a place called Hope Farms, which is owned by a church out there, and it's a camp setting. But the kids got to go out and they got to ride on a tractor, which none of our kids have ever done. They got to go fishing. We had a couple kids that caught fish, and you would have thought that they won the lottery. It was really funny to see. There's a picture of them holding a crawdad. So that was interesting. When you hand a kid something that pinches, they tend to chase you around with it. There's our kids on the tractor. They got to throw axes, which was terrifying. I had 911 on speed dial ready to go, but nobody got hurt with that, and they really enjoyed it. But it was just cool to see them have these opportunities that they don't regularly get. They live in a urban environment. A lot of their apartments are stacked 3 high. They have a breezeway, and that's it. So they don't really get to spend a lot of time exploring the outdoors. Everything's kind of fenced in, controlled for them, and they don't really get to go wander in the woods. So it was really cool to see their eyes light up when they just were like, go for it, go where you want to, do what you want to. Make sure there's an adult within shouting range, but other than that, go have fun. And then our second field trip was to a place called Discovery Place, which is a science museum for kids in Charlotte. And it was really cool to see them kind of dive into that because there was all these different scientific theories and methods that were made for kids practically. So there was a giant hamster wheel that the kids could run on, see how fast they were running, and our kids loved that because it was a competition, so you could run the fastest. There was a tug of war that was all about leverage, and our kids loved to go against the staff on the easier side so that they could win and brag about it. So it was really cool to see them kind of tap into all these different areas that they don't get to tap into very often. They don't get to explore, you know, um, all these cool opportunities. And then we had a special field trip, which is I'm still amazed by. But we took 8 kids to Lake Norman. Um, so the first thing that's crazy about this story is I know there's football fans, so I'll say it. But Jonathan Stewart, former Carolina Panthers running back, invited us to go out to the lake. So that was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then we were on the boat with a former professional wakeboarder. I was like, that's also pretty cool. And then as we're on the lake, we boat by Denny Hamlin's house, and we're like, wow, that's a great house. Look at that house. All the kids are oohing and on. And Jonathan Stewart makes a call to Denny Hamlin and says, "Hey, Denny, can we come see your house?" He says, "Yes." So we ended up at Denny Hamlin's house with our kids, with Jonathan Stewart. So I was sitting there like, this is an amazing day, and the kids were just over the moon. Um, but it was another opportunity where like that's a once in a lifetime. That doesn't happen every day. I'm 27 years old, and that's nothing like that's ever happened to me. That was the first time. So to see these kids get these opportunities through the summer was really amazing. We saw a lot of kids come out of their shell. They got comfortable around us. A lot of them are reserved and quiet, but they really got to express themselves this summer. We got to see who they are, really get to learn their personality. And for a lot of kids, it was growth. There was growth throughout the summer, and they came into this school year ahead of where they would have been. And that's really what we wanted to do, was to keep them from the summer slide, as they say. Another thing that we did this year with intention was we built a community garden. This is our second community garden that we built. The first one was by some land that somebody owned that was near the communities, but it wasn't in the communities. So this community garden was built in one of our neighborhoods, so that the people that live there would have immediate access to it. So we built it. Home Depot donated the supplies for it. We had about 15 volunteers that came out to build it. We brought the kids out so that they could build it as well, so that they would have a little bit of ownership. And they loved it. I didn't think it would go well. I don't like gardening. I didn't assume that kids would love gardening, but they absolutely love this garden. They help build it. They help maintain it. We give them a little money for watering it and making sure everything's doing well. And they absolutely love this garden. And it's been really cool to hear from parents, because we'll be in the community and we'll hear, oh, I picked some cucumbers and we used it in a salad last week, or oh, I used these tomatoes for this pasta dish that I was making. And it's nice to hear that, yes, the community garden is there, but it's actually being used. It's actually being utilized, and people are cooking with it and eating it, just picking it and eating it. And it's really awesome to see that this need that was missing with the food insecurity is being met in our own community, and that it's being utilized to its fullest extent. And then our bread and butter is what we call our neighborhood initiative. And it used to look like every Monday night we were in the community with volunteers, with pizza. We'd play games with the kids. We'd talk to parents. We would get to know them. And it was a great time. But we really looked at what's the intention of it? Why are we there? And it was to build community. It was to spend time with people. And so we looked at, all right, we can do this every week, and it's going to be intentional sometimes, but most of the time it's just going to be like, we're there. Volunteers are coming to just be there, to serve a need. So we really looked at, all right, if we do this once a month or twice a month in every neighborhood, is that going to be more intentional? Are we going to approach it, and our volunteers going to approach it with, okay, I'm going to be here 2 times a month. I can dive all the way in here. I can really get to know people. I can really be intentional with my time. I'm not just going to come here and hand out pizza and not talk to anybody. We really wanted to challenge people to be intentional. So we revised our schedule, and we made it so that it's easier for volunteer groups to come out and be a part of what we're doing. And we've seen great numbers from it. We get church groups, we get small groups, we get corporate groups, which we never got before. We get youth groups. Everybody's wanting to come out and be a part of what we're doing now. And it's really cool to see all these different people coming out to connect with our community, to be a part of what we're doing, to get to know our kids, to start to build those relationships, because from those groups come individuals, right? So the group is great. The group is wonderful. We love what they do. But if we can entice one individual to keep coming back, to build a relationship that they want to come back for, that they'll continue to be a part of, and that's what we really ultimately want. Because they're going to invest in the child or the parent, they're going to invest in the family, and then they're going to be bought into what we're doing. So this model has really worked for us. And it's really cool to see our kids love to meet new people. They love new people. So they're always excited when new people come into the neighborhood, to shake their hand, to play a game with them, to jump rope with them, to draw on the sidewalk with chalk. So our volunteers are meeting the kids first, and then the kids go introduce them to their parents. And then they get to meet the parents, and then the relationship begins to build. So this is an easy way that we've made it for people to get involved in what we're doing. And then my passion is the sports program. My official title is the sports outreach director, but I call myself the utility man because I do a little bit of everything. But the sports program is something that I'm really passionate about. It's how I got involved with Neighborhood Hope, through the basketball program originally. Just showing up and getting to build those relationships is what drew me into working with Neighborhood Hope. So our sports program has always been just a basketball program. We've always wanted to expand into other programs, but it's always just been basketball because it's easy. Everybody likes it. But through COVID and throughout this year, I've really thought about, well, basketball is great. It's fantastic. I love basketball. But is it really helping our kids? Is it really accomplishing what we want to do? Is it providing them a different opportunity than what they already have? The answer was no. So we looked at the sports program and decided that we would rotate through sports. So we're going to spend 2 weeks on a sport. So we'll do basketball, of course, but our kids are going to learn soccer. They're going to learn tennis. They're going to learn golf. We're going to go play disc golf. We're going to go do outdoor sports. We're going to look at whitewater rafting and mountain biking and kayaking and all this stuff that they normally wouldn't do. Stuff that's going to be uncomfortable for them. And I'm so excited to watch them do it because they're going to be, it's just going to be great. So through this, we want to provide a fun and active space for students to engage in physical activity while building a relationship with volunteers and mentors and expanding themselves. So it's easy for our kids to come into a gym and to shoot basketball for 3 hours, right? That's easy for them. They know how to do that. But it's difficult for them to walk onto a tennis court, pick up a racket, and to hit the ball back and forth 3 times. They don't know how to do that. They've never done it before in their life. So we want to give them that opportunity to see, is tennis something that you want to explore? Is golf something that you want to explore? And learn the social aspects that come with it, the team aspects that come with some sports, and then also the individual aspects of some sports. And the whole idea is that it's another opportunity for them to figure out who they want to be. We want to provide that space in the sports world for them to figure out, okay, I don't like basketball, so I'm not going to do that in the neighborhood, but I love tennis. So I'm going to connect with a tennis group that I can go play with, or I'm going to tell the staff that I really love tennis, and they're going to connect me with a tennis group that somebody will come pick me up, and I can go play tennis with them. And I can learn. And that's what the sports is all about, moving forward. So that's my heart, my brainchild. That's what I love. And then the last thing about this year that's been special for us is our merch campaign. So if you guys follow me on social media, I posted it. If you follow Neighborhood Hope, you've seen it posted as well. But we're really trying to be intentional with the merchandise that we put out into the world. So I have one of our shirts on today. This is our I Am Not shirt. This is designed by one of my friends. He's an artist, cartoonist. He's from Asheville, actually, but he lives in Charlotte now. And he is a black artist, and we came up with this idea of creating a series of arts, of T-shirts that are focused on breaking down stereotypes around our neighborhoods, around our community. So we serve a predominantly black community, actually an exclusively black community. And there's a lot of stereotypes that are placed on our kids and our families from birth. Due to societal reasons, whatever it may be, they are just labeled from birth. They're labeled because of where they live. We work in government housing, lower income, so there's a label already with that. But we want our kids to be proud of who they are, where they come from. We want them to know that there is no label that defines them. Right? Their label doesn't come from society. We also want the outside world to look at how they label. Where unknowingly, knowingly, how are we labeling? Are we judging people based on where they live, where they come from, what they look like? So that's really a campaign that we wanted to promote. That it doesn't matter where you look like, what you look like, where you come from, how much money your parents make, your relationship status, that you are loved, you are worthy, you are valued. And that's something that we always want to promote to our kids, that they should never look down on themselves, that they should never be ashamed of who they are or their background or where they come from, because amazing things come from everywhere, right? So that's another thing that we've done this year. So to kind of tie all this up, I wanted to talk a little bit about, this is a lesson that I use a lot with my kids, but I just love it, about living beyond limits. So Matthew 19:26 says, Jesus looked at them and said, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. So one of my favorite stories is about this family. They live in a nice house. and they get a new dog. Right, so they get a little puppy for their kids, and they live in this nice house. The puppy stays inside. They got to acclimate it to the house. The puppy stays inside. One day there's a knock on the door, and it's a delivery. So the dad goes to open the door. He opens the door. The dog sees the door open. First thing he does is bolt out the door. Right? So he takes off down the street. He's running around. Dad's chasing him. Come back, come back, come back. Because he knows if he loses this dog, his kids are a meltdown. So he gets the dog back. They get it back in the house. Next day, they have an electric fence installed, and the dog wears a little collar. So next time there's a delivery, knock on the door opens, dog bolts out, runs through the yard, gets to the end of the yard, but this time there's a shock. The dog whimpers, is confused, doesn't know what's happening. So the dad goes and gets the dog, brings it back inside. Next time there's a knock on the door, this continues to happen. The dog takes off, but each time he goes less and less out into the yard. Right? He realizes that, well, if I go too far, I'm going to get shocked. Right? So eventually, they get to the point where they take the collar off the dog. Knock on the door, the dog just walks slowly outside. No collar on, it could run away. But it's so trained to stay inside of that yard that it doesn't go anywhere. Right? And this is what happens with a lot of us. Right? We go and we test the limits and we get hurt. Or we fail. What we want to do doesn't work. We get that shock. And then eventually we start to go less and less out into the yard. We don't go as far. And then eventually, collar's off. We can go as far as we want to, but we choose not to because we're afraid of what might happen. Right? And we limit God in what we do. Right? When we do this, we limit God. We say, I know if I go too far, I'm going to get hurt. But we forget that with God behind us, we can go as far as we want. Right? There is no limit to how far we can go. If you had no limits, what does life look like beyond the fence? What does it look like? If you had no limits. This is something that we as a staff adopted. We started dreaming like we had no limits, like there was no budget, like we had the resources, we had the volunteers, we had the parent buy-in that we needed. We started thinking, what does this program, what does this organization look like if we had everything we needed? We started from there, and then we built backwards. Because when we dream unlimited, we're not limiting God, right? We're allowing Him to work, because we can only go so far. I can only do so much, right? Without God, I would not be where I am. I would not be standing in front of you today. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Probably wouldn't live down in Charlotte. I wouldn't know the community that I know. I wouldn't have the knowledge that I have. If I had just done what I know, I wouldn't be where I am. So we often limit God in what we do by making it how much we can do. Like the verse says, with man, this is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. And we've seen this play out this year as an organization. Actually, a couple of years ago, we were looking for transportation because originally we were driving kids around in our own vehicles. I, at the time, had a Honda Pilot, which seats 8 people. I have fit 12 in there. We did what we had to do. We made the necessary sacrifices. We put the miles on our cars. My shocks took a lot of punishment. But we didn't have a way to transport our kids safely. So we started, praying. What do we do? We need a vehicle, but we can't afford one. And then out of nowhere, we get a dealership that says, hey, we've got a 15-passenger van. Here it is. Go for it. With the tutoring program, we had no clue what we were doing, but we started dreaming like we did. Like we had all the resources that we needed. And through that, we were the beneficiaries of a major fundraiser from somebody that just wanted to throw a party and charge admission for it. We received all the funds from that to fund our tutoring program. We were dreaming about expanding our staff, finding people that have a skill that we don't have, that are passionate about our community. And we were able to do that. We were able to hire somebody to run our tutoring program. We actually hired 2 people that are going to run our tutoring program so that we can service more kids, that we can allow them to have those opportunities. So we started dreaming unlimited, knowing that God would provide. And it's changed how we do things. It's changed how we approach things. We've also seen the benefits of it. We've reaped the blessings of it. And this is not a prosperity gospel message. I don't want you to hear that. But we have to stop limiting God in our work. We have to stop saying it's only as far as I can go and realize that it's unlimited because we are with God. To the young people in the room who are still figuring out what you want to do with life, I would encourage you to find some way to get involved with something, to find some way to serve. You have a passion. You can turn that passion into service for others. I love sports. I never thought that I would be doing what I'm doing. If you told me when I was growing up that I would be able to take my passion for sports and use it to serve others, I would have told you that you were crazy. But here I am. My friend, the artist, Javon, he loves art, and he finds a way to take his passion, turn it into a purpose to serve others. Right? So find what you're passionate about and figure out how you can use it in service of others. And know that there are people that will support your work. I am here because of people in this room. I get to do what I do because of this church, because of individuals here that support what I do, that believe in the work that we're doing down in Charlotte and allow me to do this. So there is no limits to what you can do. You have a body behind you. You have a God behind you that will provide. So don't be afraid to dream. Go after what you want, and know that we are unlimited with God behind us. So if we're living with this unlimited mindset that God is behind us, what's the next step? Think about this for yourself. Whether you're younger, older, whatever it may be, what's the next step? If God is unlimited and He is behind us, what can we do? What can't we do? And why aren't we doing it? So that's my challenge to you today. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. But yeah, it's been an honor and a pleasure to be with you. I'm forever grateful for Biltmore, not just for your support of my work, but for being a great place to grow up. I still remember every mission trip that I've been on. I still remember going to Kenya and coming back and sharing that experience with you all. I still remember going to West Memphis, being a part of the youth group. I was thinking the other day, I missed the picture slideshow at the end of the year. So Biltmore is a great place. I love this place. This is home. So thank you to everybody here who's been a part of it, who is new to it, wherever you are. Thank you for your support of Neighborhood Hope and of me. Yeah, thank you. Any questions, concerns, comments? All right. Peace out. Question? The greatest need? Oof. Yeah. So our greatest need is always volunteers. We have 5 staff members, and we serve about 150 people altogether. So volunteers is always something that we need. So if you know anybody in the Charlotte area, please reach out to them. Send them my info. Send them the website. That's how I got plugged in. I didn't know anything about Neighborhood Hope at the time. Somebody texted me about it, and that's how I'm here. So volunteers are always a great need. Supplies for our tutoring program. We go through a lot of supplies. Kids are not very resourceful with school supplies. We get a lot of wasted paper, broken pencils, all that stuff. But yeah, tutoring supplies and volunteers are two things. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Hmm. Yeah, so we take the approach of anytime we have a program, there's a biblical lesson with it. So we tend to do this in small groups. So in the neighborhood, we'll break up into small groups and kind of talk about a lesson that everybody talks about. With sports, we talk about a biblical lesson, but also tie it to how it works for us practically. Um, and from there, in the relationship building, we kind of are able to build these like small groups outside of the programs that can be Bible studies that are more intentional. So it's really we want to take the time to figure out, am I connecting with who am I connecting with, and how do we get together and talk about the Bible? Yes, so they were actually that was one of the blessings of Christmas is they were all gifted a Bible. We had a church that came out and gave them all individual Bibles. So mm, yeah, yes. So we have really good relationships with our parents. It's one of the things whenever we get a new child, we always focus on building the relationship with the child, but also with the parents. Because it's easy to earn the trust of a child. All you have to do is, really put a snack in front of them and, hand them a Gatorade, and you've won them over. But parents are a little bit more difficult to get to. So we always want to have a working relationship with parents. We want to be in a place where they can tell us what they need, and we can tell us what we see. Um, we having those relationships allows us to very easily, kind of take those next steps if they do desire to go deeper with their walk or with they have a personal issue. Those relationships really are helpful for us to be able to step in there and to be a part of those. All right. Thank you again for your time. Um, right at time. Nailed it. Cool. All right. Thank you, guys.